Week 8 in the NFL, and we got our eyes on the fantasy football waiver wire. For that conversation, I go to SI senior analyst Michael Fabiano with the best pickups of the week. Fabs, 4 teams are on a bye: Washington, Arizona, Jacksonville, and Houston. Who are you looking at the quarterback position to pick up?
Yeah, Joe Burrow, boy, he looked good, right? I mean, his numbers have been up and down this season, but he was tremendous against the Browns. Over 400 yards passing, 4 total touchdowns, over 33 fantasy points. He's got the Titans in week 8, so he is a very good add if you're looking for help at the quarterback position. And the quarterback he played, Baker Mayfield, 5 touchdowns. So, Bill, figure me this. OBJ goes out. He misses the game. Baker has 5 touchdowns. Okay, whatever, man. I don't get it, but the numbers were the numbers. Nearly 30 fantasy points. He's got the Raiders coming up. I still don't believe in Baker Mayfield, but 5 touchdowns and a very solid stat line. He is at least worth consideration off the wire. Some other quarterbacks that you can target. Tua Tagovailoa will make his first start against the Rams. Don't start him, but you can pick him up. Kirk Cousins is on a bye this past week. He's got the Packers and the Lions coming up. And then Phillip Rivers, who was really good before Indianapolis's bye, he's got the Lions in week 8, so he could be worth a look if you're in a deeper league.
Let's move over to running backs. And anytime a running back hits 3 touchdowns in a single game, we're rushing to the waiver wire to get him. But Jeff Wilson, Fabs, he was hurt in this game.
Yeah, and that Niners backfield is a headache from a fantasy perspective because most people believed Jerick McKinnon would be the guy, and maybe we'd see some of JaMychal Hasty. Unfortunately, for everybody who started those 2 guys, including McKinnon, it was Jeff Wilson who dominated the snaps and dominated the touches. The problem is that he injured his ankle in that game, and it looks like it could be a high ankle sprain, and those are problematic. Here's the thing, though. In week 8, Tevin Coleman could come back from injured reserve. So if Wilson is a no-go, well, then Tevin Coleman could end up being the guy that you pick up in San Francisco's backfield. Let's also talk about Wade Gallman, right? Thursday night, Devonta Freeman got hurt, ankle injury. Not sure what his status is going to be for week 8. Gallman was actually pretty good, scored over 16 fantasy points, so he could draw the start in week 8 against the Buccaneers. Not a great matchup, but the touches could potentially be there. J.K. Dobbins, another player that should not be on the waiver wire. Like, I understand it. Baltimore's backfield is an absolute headache. But Mark Ingram got hurt in their last game. He has an ankle injury. But even if he plays this week, Bill, Dobbins has got to be owned across the board because this kid could end up being a league winner in the second half. So even if he is a add and stash player, I would look to J.K. Dobbins. Some other guys, if these guys are available, pick them up. I don't think they're going to be, but just look. Jamal Williams of the Packers, Giovanni Bernard of the Bengals, Boston Scott of the Eagles, who plays the worst team in the National Football League coming up. That would be my beloved Dallas Cowboys. And then LaMichael Pirines probably out there, and maybe a passing of the torch with the Jets, right? He actually had more touches than Frank Gore in the game against the Bills. So Pirine could be worth a look off the wire in deeper leagues.
All right, let's go over to wide receivers. There's a handful of them that had some big games in week 7. Who do you have your eye on?
Right, Sterling Shepard came off of IR, and he was instantly the top target for Daniel Jones. For the New York Football Giants, he had 8 targets, 6 catches, and scored a touchdown against the Eagles. He's got the Buccaneers coming up. Not a great matchup, but still a worthwhile add. And how about Cole Beasley, a former Dallas Cowboy? 12 targets, 11 catches, over 22 fantasy points against the Jets. He has scored at least 12 fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games, including a combined 36.7 points in his last 2. He's been really good, and his floor has been pretty solid. He's got the Patriots, who are bumbling at this point. So Cole Beasley needs to be owned across the board. Some other wide receivers to target. Nelson Aguilar. I know you don't love him, Bill. A touchdown in 3 straight games. Brandon Ayuk, very solid against the Patriots. And remember, Deebo Samuel left that game with a hamstring. So Ayuk could be the number 1 wide receiver for the 49ers next week against the Seahawks. Randall Cobb is on a bye coming up, but he's been pretty good. He's put up 10-plus fantasy points in all but 1 game this year. And Rashad Higgins of the Cleveland Browns, 6 targets, 6 catches, 100 yards, 17 points. We know Odell Beckham Jr. is out, and who knows how long he's going to miss because reports suggest that could be a very serious knee injury that OBJ suffered. So Higgins is worth a look. And then if you're talking deep leagues, Marcus Johnson, who was very good before the Colts bye week, he has got the Lions coming up in week 8.
All right, last but not least, let's go over to tight ends where a few guys came up big in week number 7.
Right. A player that I really liked in DFS this past week, Richard Rodgers of the Eagles, and he came up big, 8 targets, 6 catches, over 14 fantasy points against the Giants. Zach Ertz still going to be out for a while. We don't know when Dallas Goedert's coming back. Maybe could be another week or two. And Carson Wentz loves to throw the football to his tight end. So Richard Rodgers is worth a look. And Harrison Bryant, who was one of my sleepers in DFS, in Stardom and Sid'em, put that up there on Sunday morning. Austin Hooper is out. He had the appendectomy, could be out another week. Bryant was great. 5 targets, 4 catches, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, over 21 fantasy points. He would have the Raiders coming up in week 8, and clearly Baker Mayfield was leaning on those tight ends because David Njoku scored a touchdown as well. A couple of other guys, Trey Burton coming off a bye week. He has been targeted more often before the Colts went on the bye, so he's going to be worth a look against the Lions. And then Irv Smith Jr., the Vikings on a bye this past week, but he had 10 targets and 8 catches in his 2 games combined before Minnesota was off. So deeper leagues, Irv Smith Jr. is worth a look.
Now, for more of that great fantasy football analysis and strategy from Michael Fabiano, you can check out SI Fantasy Plus. It's only $14.99 a month, and you get all of Fab's cheat sheets, player rankings, and his Stardom Sid'em every single week. It's great stuff. Go to si.com/fantasy for more information on how to sign up.